To the Deltahead stream. I am James Howell, and tonight we're going to do part one of one of my favorite video games of all time, Killer 7, released in, I think, 2003, 2004, 2005. Yes, mid-aughts, early mid-aughts, and it is a fantastic game that does some narratively provocative things, really great style, covers a lot of ground, and does it in this very sideways and diagonal way that I think is very inspirational, and I think introduced a lot of people to an unusual style of storytelling pushed to its extreme, or one of its extremes, that Suda uniquely brings. And I am excited to talk about this, especially since, let's see if I can adjust this a little. There we go. Especially since my first piece of video game writing ever was the Killer 7 plot FAQ and a plot analysis FAQ, and that I've kind of developed my way of thinking about games a little bit differently since doing that. And so coming back to revisit Killer 7 is going to be a real treat for me, and I'm looking forward to surprises for myself as well. Give me 1 second. Pulling up chat here. And as part of the pregame show, gonna look at, let's see, there we go. As part of the pregame show, we're gonna look at a movie that I watched this week that has stuff that I like quite a lot in it. Well, that's the and that's the first frame of it. Let's see, there we go. There we go, there's my scene with the GameCube logo. Anyway, yeah, the movie is titled Jubaku, and it's the secondary title is Spellbound. And initially I had no idea what it was about, and was like, you know what, this has Tetsuya Nakadai in it, and that's the value of star power. It draws people in who might otherwise not have, you know, kind of been into something. And I watched it, and it's fascinating. It's very well done, and it answers a question that I would never have thought to ask before watching it, which is, how do you make a movie about a financial crisis in the banking system compelling and interesting? And the answers that it gives are pretty fantastic. And that's kind of what we're going to look at, because I think the storytelling style here, it's imagistic. It offers visual themes and visual perspectives, like literal perspectives on things that are uncommented upon, but that nonetheless have an impact on how the movie is experienced and kind of how you feel about the story. They're things that they're not supposed to. They're things that you can intuit meaning through. And not necessarily subject. Oh wow, that's a beautiful bird. Not necessarily subject to an analytic approach, though of course you can speak about it analytically, because that's what we're going to do now. So yeah, here we go. Yeah. So the first thing that it says is, okay, so this is a movie about bank fraud. How do you make that interesting? And one of the ways that they do it is they actually borrow a few sort of stock and trade conventions from what I've come to learn are conventions in sort of like Yakuza movies, when the cops start to crack down on the crooks. And it uses these moments of sort of cinematic flair where, you know, the police storm a local, you know, family's office, and they make a real big show of barging in. They're really chatty, they're really commanding, and they're like turning everything up, looking for evidence and carting stuff away. And that's one of the things that this movie does, which is, where's my keyboard? There we are. So like these are the prosecutors coming into the bank. They've come to the very top floor. They're going to storm the executive's office, and this is very much that sort of dynamic kind of heroes coming down the hallway look that a lot of those that feels very much like the cops coming in to set things right. And you know, it has a few extended scenes of people sort of like making a big show of carting things away for evidence. Here they are bringing in the cardboard boxes and carting stuff away. And it also has the sort of, you kind of see a lot of this in like Kitano's cop movies, where the cops are extra rough on the prime suspects and things like that. And these are things that don't really show up as, they show up as story beats. And they serve to articulate one of the underlying themes that the movie does bring out explicitly, which is that, you know, this bank fraud stuff is absolutely connected to the funding of organized crime, and that the underside of societal problems. The sort of underworld can't operate without an overworld authentication of it, funding, and that's what that's what the fraud is about, right? The bank is giving out loans without any kind of interest, without any kind of collection or collateral, and they're giving them to gangsters, and that's where the fraud's coming from, right? Evening, Iceman Dan. Yes, white collar crime. Thank you. That is a word that is a very good, succinct summary of this problem that never occurred to me, and I'm very glad that you mentioned it. No, Phoenicia, I have not, and good evening. Thank you for giving me that title. I will look into it. But yeah, so these genre conventions, they're just little hooks, but they're genre calls that connect to the theme, which is that this is the white collar crime face, the legitimate face of underworld crime. And not in such a way where there's like a respectable business and there's somebody who is also a crime boss who's involved. It is just legitimately two worlds. This is their connection. And the genre conventions convey that sort of wordlessly, and I think that's very interesting. It also uses some persistent imagery that is largely uncommon. A film about tax evasion? Well, sign me up. I mean, honestly, that's one of the reasons why this movie is actually a really good introduction for the first stream about Killer7. Is Killer7, Suda is a master of what I, in my parlance, call dull punk, which is where he will take concepts like civil ministries and postal services and mail order services and put them at the crux of these ridiculous conspiracies and violent feuds and things like that, and so white collar crime, these sorts of things that on their face are, you know, Enron and things like that that you might have to have a special vested interest in that world to find interesting. He absolutely a master of making that stuff interesting and compelling and making you want to look more into it. The banality of evil, yes, and then you put Dan Smith in there and it becomes comic booky and great. But yeah, so it uses persistent imagery that's uncommented upon, and probably the biggest signal is this statue, which represents Rome. This actually shows up in Animal Crossing, of all places, and it also shows up. There was a gift that Mussolini, I believe, made to a town very near mine that I grew up in Georgia, that is a replication of this statue. And what this indicates, there's a myth about the founding of Rome, that Romulus and Remus, the two twin brothers who were Rome's founders, were suckled by a wolf in the wilderness. And that's how they gained such strength to found a city that could be the center of an empire that could then functionally be the entire world. Whether that's geographically true or not, spiritually, conceptually, it wound up finding that grounding for many people who were in the Roman Empire. And so that's the statue. The statue is at the foyer of this bank, and I don't know if it's literally a statue in the actual location where all this stuff happened, because it is based on a true story. But for the purposes of the art, I don't think that really matters. It's kind of like the Wall Street Bull in its placement. And as you get further into the inner sanctum, you find another replica of it. There's Nakadai. He's a brilliant, crotchety old man in this who is an old crook. He plays. He's great. He's an actor who has not lost his touch as he's aged. But so you have this in the inner sanctum, right? So there's very much a Rome feel, right? That this is an empire. The financing of crime is very much what is holding this society together, at least economically. And yes, original Wolves of Wall Street. That's a very good point, and a nice turn of the image. Evening, Boogle. There are only 5 of them because I have not gotten enough thin blood to unlock the other 2, and that remains to be seen how that happens. But what's interesting with this, so they have this image, and this persists across different scenes. The most interesting thing to me about this, there is a subplot where younger bankers are trying to oust the older bankers who have been responsible for this corruption that has caused this massive investigation and risks upturning Japan's economy. And this image right here, as they go down the hallway, it's a bust of just the wolf's head. And you can kind of see it here from another angle. It's just the wolf's head. And this is fascinating because the point of the Romulus and Remus statue is that Romulus and Remus, the next generation, are being suckled, they're being nourished to take over. And what you have here at the very entrance of the executive suite is the wolf, and only the wolf. So basically, the parent without the child. And there's this problem of succession, right? When you have an older generation in power and they're very slow, even unwilling to relinquish power, all you have is the wolf. You don't have Romulus and Remus. There's nobody who can take over, and it winds up being a stale power structure that can only collapse, which is what happens here. And that is it's a magnificent working of this image that goes beyond the superficial sort of like identification of a certain political economic order with Rome to actually doing something very interesting with this. Yes, of course we're talking about Star Trek. What is this? I can't see the color on my thing. It's very dark. Oh man, for some reason the color, Warm Visitor, thank you, that's it. Sorry, it took me a second to read the name. It meshed really well with the black. Good evening, Warm Visitor, it's good to see you. But just, yeah, let's see if we can get through this in the next couple of minutes. The next image that it uses is this musician, and one of the bankers says that if things keep going badly, he's going to wind up like this musician. So this musician is sort of tied right at the start, at his first appearance, with the downfall and the decline of this banking system, and it absolutely uses this image without comment at like the quarter mark, the halfway mark, the 3/4 way mark. This musician just shows up playing in this park in the center, and here it is very brilliantly framed there by the news anchor sort of taking a drink of water, and you know, very nice framing there in that shot, and it also shows up there at the end in silhouette. And this is another really good use of just an image that it persists, that is used, that is not commented upon, and it is a structuring element, but it also has a sort of it has a meaning sort of implied and associated with it that it just sort of loosely carries out, and that's a great storytelling technique. And the final thing that is very interesting to me about how it tells its story, this is I mentioned last time about how form in poetry works to communicate information that the words themselves do not semantically convey, but when you understand the form, when you understand how it is structured and what that intends to do, then you can start to understand hidden information that is implied in there. And this is one of the ways that I think this movie does that, which is through spatial relationships. This is kind of an overview map. It's the title screen, and you can see all the major players and how they relate to each other on a map here. And the cinematography absolutely makes use of large cavernous spaces, almost negative space type framing. That like here you've got the Central Park, very nice framing through dome structure. I'm not remembering the name of that particular thing, but you know, you can see the fountain, you can see the distance, and even here with this newspaper layout, there's a patterning here that sort of creates space, and it's not just a straight on shot. And they do the same thing in interior shots here too, right? People are populated around the edges of the room, sparsely in the middle, and there's like this relational positioning that creates a sense of space. This is just beautiful. There are several shots like this that are cavernous, where the people create points of reference for your eye to hit, and that makes the space bigger. Here as well, there's a lovely shot of a boardroom. And what's interesting is that this is like the norm for this story. And then when shots get really, really close up to the faces of people, and when the screen flattens, it means that something dynamic and interesting is happening, usually for the worse for particular characters. Like this right here is a moment where the dialogue that's happening in the background actually takes a turn for the worse. And you can see what it does there, right? It compresses the distance, it closes the space, and it makes it just a little bit flatter. And here you have Nakadai in a car. This is kind of a rare scene where everything is up really compressed, and he's not a happy man. And that's an instance where everything is close. And here's another shot of him, again, where he's not happy. And you have this very close shot through the framing of the back of a chair, and it makes the space flat. Here is another one where he's enraged, and it does this weird mosaic patterning that makes it flat like a painting. And it's like all of these moments are connected with the old order collapsing. It's like distance becomes two-dimensional, and that's where change happens. And probably the most sort of like on-the-face illustration of this is this moment here, which is right before his downfall. It has this beautiful shot of him against his house, and then it fades out, and then there's the spider web. And the spider web, besides the clear imagery of, you know, getting caught in entanglements, it's a flat image. It's flat, it is the surface of the screen, and that is exactly the point of his downfall. And that's a way where form is used. When things become flat, when things become close quarters, that means that things are becoming more dynamic. Things are stirring up, and something big is about to happen. And that's a use of form. It's illustrating, kind of giving you information about the story that the actors in the script aren't giving you themselves. So yeah, and that sort of compression of 2D space into 3D space is absolutely something that Suda Goichi does in Killer 7, and I'm really excited to jump into that, so let's go do that. Evening Dream Bombs, good to see you. Thank you so much for the subscription. Let me catch up here. Romulus Smith, yes, Romulus Smith. I hope to unlock him. That's the Killer 9, right? Tokyo Drifter, I can see that. I mean, I can absolutely see a Seijun Suzuki influence on this. I mean, at least in terms of storytelling style. The sort of like removal of action from context that tells you a story about action while hinting at context without really giving you a bigger picture, so you're not 100% sure what the full story is, but you have enough to enjoy. I can absolutely see that. Oh, Nick! Right, sorry. It's been so long since you've showed up in chat that I forgot your Twitch name. It's great to see you. And, yeah. Oh, yeah, I saw the, let's click over here to the channel, and let's get this. There we go. There we are. Yeah, I saw the No More Heroes 3 kind of footage and stuff, and it's very exciting. Very exciting. Where are we? There we go. Let's see. Yep. And yes, should anybody be in doubt as to this game's timbre and tone, this is absolutely this is not for kids. So just consider that your warning and adjust your viewership accordingly. Oh, I mean, I gotta say, I'm in love with this copy. This is, you can kind of see when I got it. Got the Blockbuster. I bought this for $10 pre-owned, and this just does my heart good. I love physical packaging. I love physical media, and it just makes me happy. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing it on this. Let me see, what kind of save space do I have in here? We're gonna start a new game on Killer 7 because Killer 8 is kind of brutal and grueling, and that's not exactly the experience we're going for on the stream. Here we go. Ah, this music is good. Killer 7's soundtrack has been a personal soundtrack for a very long time. I have like 2 or 3 playlists that just remix its tracks on my phone, just because there's so many different ways you can cut it for a kind of experience that is so good. Oh, that's cool. I don't remember this tempo changing. I'm used to this tempo for this music, but this is good. I actually don't think that this tempo of this track is on the OST. This might be worth recording and ripping for future use at some point. Sound design on this game is fantastic, and evening Swimmy, it's good to see you. Yeah, here we go. Blew my mind the first time I played this. Still love it. I like how there is there are a couple of centers where at which point it sort of switches over to a different angle. I always found this fascinating, that it kind of suggests that there are multiple assassins, that this is maybe not the same laser, that there are perhaps even 7. Would be interested to see how many points of reference there are on the outside of the screen for where this laser could come from. But yeah, no, I like that. It suggests the many that you are to inhabit as assassins. It's very cool to give the moon a heartbeat. Yes. Love Garcia and Smith. You know, Dan Smith is a lot of fun, and I'm really glad that he showed up in No More Heroes Travis Strikes Again. But I gotta say that my favorite character out of this entire game is Garcian. There's a lot of complexity there, and he is the one with he's the one with a heart. The visual style in this game is fantastic. The fact that everything is essentially 2D with a gradient. I mean, there's obviously a 3D perspective given, but the gradient that always stays the same regardless of where the 3D shading and everything falls gives it a two-dimensionality that is a perfect blending of two different identities of 2D and 3D.
You mean this shit old?
That's where they all hang out. Our information tells us that there's 14 of them.
And they're all fun.
Keep one alive so we can ask who the boss is.
Anything else I should know?
Nah, not really. You'll know when you see them. They're, different.
Will do.
May the Lord smile.
And the devil have mercy.
The fact that it starts at assignment number 33 is brilliant. It lets you know that it implies the history that these characters and this sort of troupe has, and it lets you know that you're not going to experience an origin story. There's a lot of water under the bridge that you will not know, and it creates a sense of mysteriousness that somebody cynically looking to make additional content could say is good for prequel material, but that for the purpose of this kind of storytelling, I think, is good for creating a vacancy, creating a gap that exists as an object in itself in your mind that will always remain unfilled, and that you always are referencing at some point in your mind when you're trying to understand things. It's like, well, there's just so much I don't know. I don't know assignments 1 through 32, and the fact that you don't know is itself a kind of positive form of knowing that the game uses to create its narrative effect, and I think it's fantastic. Yeah, Swimmy, it does. As a matter of fact, I mentioned this just a second ago with the 3D and 2D sort of mixed identity, and that sort of overlapping identity of two things being the same thing is very much what I feel is it's at the heart of what is interesting about this game to me now. I think it's very hard to say that Killer 7 is about one thing over another. I think probably the more accurate thing to say is that there are things about it that are more or less interesting, and that varies from person to person. And so, kind of an easy, maybe cliche way of saying that is up to everybody's interpretation, which certainly it is. But I actually feel like the more nuanced and accurate way of sort of talking about a game like this is what about it interests you, and what in the game reinforces that, explores that, while understanding that there's a ton of other data and information out there that is just this noise. You just have to find your signal. And for me, that's overlapping identity that is 2D and 3D compressed into a single visual experience. That's Japanese and American identities overlapped, both in terms of media and also in this game in terms of secret agents, and also linguistically, because even though it's like when you reload, you get the katakana and the English, so you always have two things parallel. Not side by side, but overlapping, and that is aesthetically very provocative to me, and I like it. Oh yeah. There was a pharmaceutical mission that yeah, Kevin had to make a hard choice there. I think it's very interesting that Iwazaru gives you your tutorial. Oh. I love that slappy sound effect you get when he walks. Listen to that. Oh, that's not what you want. See if I can get one good kill here. Oh, nope. There we go, that's how to reload. Oh man. Might be in for a hard road if this is... There we go. In terms of sort of like circular design, I really like how, even though this is kind of a nowhere space, the room layout is basically identical to the first boss fight that you have at the end of Angel, where you're running around in a circle around the angelic anime angel form that Kun Lan has adopted. Do you mean that Iwazaru hates everybody besides Harmon? This is a great establishing shot in gameplay. I love that the game furnishes moments like this. And this is the first sort of like brain blowout moment where you find out that through the medium of visual technology, Harmon can adjust the persona that is out in the field. And there's a very, I feel, clear implication of Harmon as a game player, and I actually think there was some press material from such good framing, such good shadowing. This is a great shot.
I have been chosen.
Shit. There's more than 14. Those bastards are breeding.
Dan is a very good smith to turn to from Garcian, because both of them, like Garcian has this sort of like very heavy, like he's like an iceberg, right? It's like there's so much underneath the surface, and you can feel that in his delivery and how reserved he is. And Dan is very big and explosive, even in his bombast and his cool and stuff like that. He's a very big personality in a way to contrast with Garcian's depths, and so to just convey how different these characters are, that's a really good contrast to offer right at the start. Evening time, zombie. It's good to see you. Yep, we're doing Killer 7. Gonna see how far we can get through this before 9 o'clock, because I'm gonna chatter a lot about this game. I love it. Let's see, how old are these save files? Okay, 2015. What are the save files on this one? Wow, 2010. These save files are 11 years old, buddy. Leave that for history. That's very funny, Warm Visitor. I can imagine. This would be a surprising game for many people, but for that background especially. I love the compass that surrounds your
Don't make me say it. Wait here. Don't make me say it again.
I'm a cleaner. This is another one of those areas where like two different identities collapse into the same one. Because I'm not aware of any TV that does this, but you know, the little number in the upper left-hand corner for those of us who grew up with only analog televisions, the little number in the upper left corner and the serum vitality bar down there, the vitality bar down there is obviously reminiscent of like a volume bar, but that particular kind of digital overlay is not something that is associated with turning a knob to change channels between 1 to 13 and UHF. So this is sort of like this visual combination of analog, like hard analog, where you've got like a radio antenna that it's pulling from, and digital interface, and that's another instance for me where like the digital and the analog are overlapping. Excuse me. No Time Zombie. That was. I mean, God. These are GameCube memory cards, so I probably was still playing it on my GameCube then. As a matter of fact, I'm just now playing it on the Wii. Yeah, don't touch that dial. Absolutely a radio phrase, but not wrong for this.
What did you say?
Later.
Yeah, Swimmy. Khan is the ideal choice if you want to have a smoother playthrough for his lock-on because he gets it fastest. He is ideal if you're going to play Killer 8. Mask. Love Mask. And, but yeah, he is ideal for Killer 8 because as you I'm sure know, the weak spots are not visible. I also really like the load screen where you've got the static that's up very close. It leans into the theme of visual technology being the medium through which Harmon interacts with the world. You know, that basically he is in his wheelchair in the trailer outside of Seattle, watching all this happen on TV, and you know, I can just envision him like almost medium-esque as the Smiths move from one room into the other, kind of like putting his face very close to the TV and seeing the television snow, just like very up close, so much that it blurs and is almost sort of a visual overload. And that's kind of the image that comes up in my mind when that happens. I really like the I think it's a fighter pilot design for the reticle there. Let's see. Whoop. Oh yeah, Nintendo first-party games are, I mean, Nintendo's got that on lockdown. They will forever. I also got to say, the localization on this game is top-notch. This is, it's got style. It has as much style in the language as the game itself has in its visual presentation and sort of narrative details that it lets you in on. If you can find it, it is absolutely worth finding a YouTube clip of, there we go. It is worth finding a clip of the Japanese version so you can hear what the voices sound like. This game has, I mean, it did two things super smart as far as production budget goes. The first is that for all of the voices of NPCs, they just put it through like a TTS, text-to-speech machine, and that's for the original version. And rather than even try to localize that, they just localize the text, change the subtitles, super cheap, and put the TTS through a filter. And you admire the scrappiness of it, because the end effect is perfect. I think it's a really good example of fascinating quality coming out of limitations. Limitations are definitely not things to balk at, so they create some of the greatest effects. Hey Smith, I ain't letting you go nowhere. That is a great line to end that on, because Travis just stays there, and you have to wonder eerily what that means. This, the way that it does the path select is also an instance where 3D and 2D collapse. In addition to the gradient that never changes, kind of in the same way that when I was talking about Jubaku, where it uses like a frame, it frames a character through like the backing of a chair, or it uses a flattening mosaic pattern to call attention to the flatness of the image, and that's a moment of transition and change. Likewise, what killer7 does here is it uses this interface. It calls attention to the shape of your TV screen, and it lets you, you are aware of it as a flat surface because it is sort of shattered like this. And yet it is the thing that you're paying attention to, and through it you are seeing the 3D environments. So again, it's that integration of 2D and 3D elements that that gives this game a very powerful identity. Honestly, I kind of feel like killer7 is the best hidden gem. A lot of people it has a cult following, and so it's very big in my world, but I kind of feel like that I might be in a minority on that one. Dreambaum might have a better sense of the pulse of its legacy than I do. Alright, this is a Camellia Smile, and if you land the crit, you get a lot of blood from it, but I have a hard time doing that. Let's see if that works out. Whoops. Let's see. Let's just reload. Nope. Ah! Nuts. Yeah, there's I gotta say, man, if your reality has a sky like that, oh, you're in trouble. Yes, that was when CRTs were the main, if not only show in town. Oh, that's nifty. I really like that the weak spot for the head is embedded in the neck, so unlike this one, if I accidentally blow off the limb, I don't have access to it. Oh, maybe I do. Oh, Jesus. Oh, it's just brutal as they're crawling up to you. You're just like, die, die, die. Let's see if I can get a little more thin blood here to activate my powers. Oh, God. I swear to God I hit it one of those times. Let's see. I should heal up, but I'm not gonna. Oh yeah, I really like this. Like stylistically, I really like that the upper left sort of like makes code visible and just sort of has that running. It's a very nice touch. There we go. Yeah, I need two thin blood vials to be able to activate Dan's super powerful shot. That is the best way of getting rid of this. Oh no! Oh no! This nest. There we go. I really like the mechanical heart design there. I always pause whenever I blow one of those up, because if you don't, the egg is still rolling towards you, and you're just blinded by the explosion, and 9 times out of 10 I always take the hit. I'm not 100% certain I'm gonna hit this, so I'm gonna switch to Coyote, see if I need to take a damage. Take a damage. There we go. See, Iceman Dan, when you're seeing that upper right, do you mean something in the stream that's misformatted? Oh, do you mean the code? The coding thing? I might have misdescribed where it is. One of the things this game does such a fantastic job of is creating these secondary characters that have you know, they have roles and identities that other people know, and they're not telling you what they are. You just know their function, and they seem to know who you are, but you don't know who you are. And it's a great atmosphere. Let's see. I kind of want to heal up Dan here. Killer7 did something a little. It did something maybe unintentional with the characters that it forefronts, because I get the feeling that each one of them is supposed to have a distinct value to the team, because, you know, they all have different abilities, of course, but you're supposed to sort of view them all equally and to be interested in all of them the same. Like, it's by virtue of the fact that you meet Dan first. You meet Dan first, but also he gets more screen time, and that kind of makes him, kind of turns him by default into the main member of the team. No, Jesus! Wow, I don't think I've ever made a shot like that before. On all my time playing this game. Ah, this track is great. I love it. I really like that they created a track that is used exclusively for in-between spaces like this. Something else that they also do that is very successful is they do a comic book thing that that is exceptionally effective, which is they give every character something unique and identifiable to say. That sort of gives you a hook for remembering them. You know, Garcians and Christopher Mills, like may the devil smile and the Lord have mercy, or may the Lord smile and the devil have mercy. Whichever one it is, you remember the phrase even if you don't remember the order, and so you can remember them in that way, and it's very dynamic. And Iwazaru's "We're in a tight spot." You know, that works. Every article that you read about Killer7 references it because it's so memorable, and it's very quick and it's punchy, and it is absolutely something that you can learn from comic books for how to, like, make something memorable, make something stick. Something short, repeated, but not too often, and that has a good rhythm. We're in a tight spot. Oh yeah, this guy doesn't end up well.
Help me!
That is a good moment that you don't see in any other level. You see it a couple of times in this one, but you know, the Heaven Smiles are supposed to be this this worldwide, or at least nationwide in America, terrorist presence. I hear somebody walking toward me. There we go. And you don't actually see them being terrorists very much. And so this is a good introduction because, you know, if you don't want to keep doing that same thing over and over for a bunch of different missions, just do it really impactfully right at the start, and then people will just continue to assume that it remains true even if you don't reinforce it later on down the line. Evening Sim. No, I have not tried the PC version. I have heard good things about it, but every time I get the hankering to play this game, which happens every 2 or 3 years, I always want this fellow right here. And there's actually one moment that will come up on shortly, which is one of the reasons why the GameCube controller is very important to me. It's a small moment, but it's a deciding factor. So yeah. Get a little closer, buddy, so I can see. Oh. Well, maybe he's short-sighted. Just runs into a wall. I gotta say, being a Heaven Smile is absolutely not a terrorist cult to join if you are clumsy. Oh, snap! I didn't know that, and I do. Well, that does tip the scale for me, I have to say. Yeah, this is a game that's made specifically for the GameCube, and I feel that it is very strong on the intended hardware. Funnily enough, I do hold that opinion, yet my first time playing through this game, I did not have a GameCube at the time. Or... No, I did have a GameCube, but the PS2 port was cheaper. And I was on a kind of a low budget at the time. So I got the PS2 port, which was not a very good port, I've got to say. You kind of see this right here. That transition, burst, immediately come back together. On the PS2, that transition is like 5 seconds long, and I clearly did not know what I was missing out on, because that was a fine experience for me. Also, just sound-wise, I don't know if you can hear, but the directional sound of that sort of whooshing white noise is very good, very atmospheric. Interesting, yeah, Ill Bleed Strategy Guide, wow, that's gotta be rare. I would love to play Ill Bleed on original hardware, but it is a little too pricey for me just now. Okay, so here's the thing. This is my headcanon, and take that for what you will. But so when you give blood to the surgeon, there's a little sort of visual cue down there for how this interacts. You know, when you switch channels, the AV connections down there, the yellow, white, red, you know, those are empty. But when you go to the blood channel, now you've got things plugged in there, and it's like, you know, you're sending an analog signal into the television set, and the analog signal communicates blood. So you've got this sort of biological substance being conveyed through an electric medium, which is absolutely perfect for the Killer 7, who managed to change meat forms through visual electronics. So yeah, so you're sending blood into the screen, and that's sort of like a feeling like you are the player, you are looking at a screen, so you're doing that. And if you mash the buttons and kind of swirl the stick around, it goes in there faster, right? So it's like just sort of envisioning this, as gross as this is in Killer 7's universe, it's like there's like a blood bag, right? And you're squeezing it, and you're sending, you know, like if you've ever like had like a saline bag like on a wringer or something, and you got to get those last drops out, and you kind of roll it down, you're squeezing it and wringing it out, and that's the haptic. that's the tactile association that I have with that. And the GameCube controller is very round. It's very good hand-sized and very comfortable, and it feels perfectly made for that experience. And that is why I like the GameCube controller so much. Good times.
Wait here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually level up crits less. Who else am I going to use more often?
What did you...
Can I... Oh, I can unlock Mask. Absolutely. Mask is my second favorite character. Actually, I don't know. It's hard to have a single favorite character. Garcia and Dan and Mask all kind of inhabit the same tier. Yeah. Do the mouse controls on the PC version also have the waver? I know that waver is one of the reasons why people prefer mouse controls, and that's actually one of the gameplay balancing elements that's pretty important for how the game plays as a shooter. Oh man, well, Knuckles, I am all about cumbersome Dreamcast games. They're dear to my heart. Oh, nifty. That's really cool. Sim, I'm actually very interested in your headcanon on that, because I have not thought that anybody else would have thought anything on that same topic, so that interests me greatly. Oh, no. Ah, it's brutal. Oh yeah, that's probably something else worth mentioning, is that with Yoshiko Hayashida and my friend Jarell, we were the ones who translated Hand in Killer 7. So if that is a resource that has been a benefit to you in understanding and appreciating this game, on my and their behalves, you're welcome. I am strangely enough responsible for a ridiculous, at least earlier on in this game's legacy, responsible for a ridiculous amount of this game's reception in English-speaking audiences. Oh no, 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 no! Oh, someone's gonna have to take this. Ah! Sorry, Mask. Maybe I should have leveled up his speed first. Kind of just apologize to him. I played the Silver Case and its PC. This is kind of. Whoa! Mask took a heaven smile to the face and didn't take any damage? Oh, that's a luchador for you, huh? I played the Silver Case on PC, but why is everybody healed? I'm very confused. Weird. Weird. Oh, I actually did not know that. Thank you. I always thought it was just like you get extra blood from it. I did not know that. That's so good. Travis is sass, even though he is your prisoner. Or Harmon's prisoner, at least. One of the things that is very good about this game's visual style, I feel, is and it also is one of the things that helps it age very well, is with a lot of games, I do this, everybody kind of likes to go into the texture museum and try to find some way of looking at something in first person, or if it's a third person game, try to find a way where you can tighten the camera so you can look at things. And as games get older, unless you have a particular appreciation for the aesthetic of the old and low res, they tend not to age well. But when you have something that's stylized like this, I mean, there's not much more information that you're going to get looking up close that you're getting now. That's a vase with two shades, and you're going to see that no matter how far away or close you are. And so the environment conveys itself without belaboring itself, and that is one of the benefits that a stylized visual design can get you. Oh, that's really interesting. I never put together the military super soldier cloning machine as related to Garcian's gaming training. Actually, I remember there was a comic on Grasshopper's website that actually showed Garcian looking at a screen and slamming the green button on a GameCube controller. I've looked for that for years and have never been able to relocate it. So if anybody has one of those or has like an archive of that, I'm absolutely curious. ADILEGIAN on Twitter. If you find it, please post it and at me, because I would love to see that again. But yeah, that's I've always found that just kind of a nice tip of the hand. That Garcian and Harmon, as these assassins, are also gamers, and I think that's a very nice touch and a very nice association without belaboring it and making it overly central to the way the story unfolds and the way that Metal Gear Solid 2 does to great effect. But I guess I just don't need more than one MGS2 on that front. Gruesome. Well, thank you for sharing that, Sim. Have a safe trip to the store. I wish you all traveling mercies. Oh yes, that's a coyote puzzle. Whew. Yeah, early on, when you don't have good waver and your skills are just sort of very basic, you are just desperately shooting, and it's a fun feeling. And I did not know this until when I played through it, until I started reading like killer7, and when we were doing the translation of that, and but it like Yoon Hyun is Yoon Yun. I think that he was, if I'm remembering kind of right, he was a manager of the Union Hotel where the Union 7 killings happened. But yeah. It was only until I started reading that somewhere that it clicked, and I'm like, that's why you read things aloud. This is also Yoon Hyun's like his persona, the way that he is portrayed, is another example of that sort of two identities overlapping and existing in the same persona. Because here you have a deferential. I mean, he's in the service industry. He runs a hotel, and so he's treating you like that. And then once you shoot the mask and give it the blood, the thick blood, then he shows another side of who he is, which is so drastically opposite. It's kind of a similar dichotomy to how Garcian's very mild-mannered but deep presence contrasts with Dan's sort of manic intensity, and that's the same kind of overlap you have here. Oh, I forgot that she's lying there. Definitely no longer in the service industry. Absolutely a ghost who you have chained who hates you. And that's also the true mask thing. I mean, that's a fascinating idea that again hits at the combination of appearance and reality being the same thing, but in a way you don't quite expect, like style and substance being the same thing. Because a mask, obviously, we associate masks with falsehood. True being something that is real. The mask being the truth is a kind of that kind of paradox that this game thrives on. And I need the fire ring first, so we're gonna go get that. And some lobby seating with all the charisma of an airport waiting lounge. For context, I believe I'm not sure if this is spelled out in the game directly or if this is Hand in Killer 7 specific, but all these ghosts, all these personae that you're finding, these are people who Harmon Smith killed as an assassination job, and then the people that he kills, I recall, he absorbs their personae, and if there's a certain degree of compatibility, then they become personae that he can then manifest as. The Killer 7 being the personae that he was most compatible with, and if there's not a good match, then they just sort of are in this sort of purgatory of in his orbit, stuck in his gravity, so to speak. So they show up as these voices that whichever Smith happens to be in the field at the time encounters that they're speaking with, and it's a great fiction. Oh man, love this. The way that the way that this game sort of breaks up its space and frames objects, people, and scenarios is something that I am appreciating more and more, as having a kinship to prioritizing spatial composition that I'm seeing in a lot of the Jidaigeki and other movies that I've been watching over the past year. There feels to be a kinship there in the style department. I believe we get a pigeon here. Yep. Oh yeah, this is a guy who a lot of people don't really know what to do with. Johnny Gagnon. Is this something that happened in the past? Is this something that is happening simultaneously? What's the relationship between now and the time these messages were sent? And this is an example of the kind of thing that I'm talking about, where it's like you don't have to come up with a unified theory about what this game means to account for every single phenomenon. Just figure out the thing that you're interested in and kind of find the ways that the game explores that. Johnny Gagnon, honestly, I mean, when I wrote the Killer 7 plot analysis, I had an opinion and a thought on him, and I'm sure that if I went back and reread that, I would have either the same or a revised thought. But just sort of out of the blue, it's not something that I particularly feel that interested in, so it doesn't really factor into how I feel about the game. Which is true for many things, but feels like it has to be more true for something that is as abstract as Killer 7 can be. And this is a good way of introducing you to your characters without being... I don't know, it's interesting. It's talking to you as the player, but it's also not talking to you because it's talking to your character about your character. And that's very clever. That was a great shot. This game does some the dynamism of the characters' poses and how unique they are. Like the shape language of every character is so distinct that when you for some reason I remember Harmon in his wheelchair being in this room when it's daylight. I don't know. We'll see if that holds. But yeah, every character has such distinct shape language, and the style is so on point that without even seeing the colors of their outfits, you know exactly who is present on screen. And that is a design success. Excuse me. Oh man. Crap. Oh man. Whew. That, I did not think I was gonna make that. Oh yeah, I also love, each Smith has their own special quick turn, and Mask's little hop is very nice to me. Something that is also interesting that when you understand the overlap between Garcians, you know, every Smith is basically an avatar for Harmon, and they're out there representing him in the field. And you have the personalities that, unless it's Garcian that they're speaking to, by force of plot, they're talking to, I believe they're talking mainly to Harmon. So it's unclear exactly who they're talking to because they're speaking to every character as though they are the same, because they are in a way that you just don't understand at this point in the story. I think it's very funny to position him right there because, you know, even a Heaven Smile has to have his vanity. I need the fire ring first. I don't think I've received it yet, have I? Oh, this is stylistically one thing that I like very much about this game, and at one point set out on a project to collect screenshots of every one of these moments. Is these puzzle moments, basically switch flipping things, where they create a detailed static image that is much more detailed than anything you see in the game's normal style in the overworld, or overworld in the normal combat environment, and it's like that. Stylistically, again, very interesting, and suggests that the information that you have access to about what this world looks and feels like is limited and subject to perspective. I can see the point and click adventure aspect to it. I think it's oh man. Whew. Suda's other games prior to this were many of them visual novels or visual novel-like. So the point and click adventure is not a bad comparison for the sort of, I don't want to say static, but more presentational style of game. And actually, presentational is a good word to mention, because one of the distinctions, reading Donald Ritchie's 100 Years of Japanese Cinema, one of the sort of like high-level ideas that he advances is that in terms of storytelling style, Western cinema favors the representational, meaning that when we watch a movie, we assume that it is telling us a story from an objective perspective that is representing the world as it exists in that movie, whether or not that movie's environment is fantastical or grounded, whereas the Japanese film sort of like legacy is presentational rather than representational, meaning it is always presenting something as a perspective and not as like a reality. And this game's sort of like focus on different ways of seeing things, whether it is in this sort of gradient reality or up close representational puzzles, or even with the different anime styles, the different animation styles in the cutscenes, that it leans hard into the presentational over the representational. And you know, if you're trying to make sense out of that, I feel like that model gives it, for me anyway, that model gives it, makes it more accessible to me as a way of sort of understanding, like, okay, why does that feel the way it feels, and you know, without making any kind of claims about intention, because that's kind of useless. That's what works for me. Yeah, Stream Bomb. I think that is an excellent description. Good God, I can't believe I've got a save file on this game in 2021 and 2010 on the same the same console. Oh no, Knuckles, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, that's good cat work, so high five your cat, because it's doing its job, but I'm sorry about your computer and sorry about the inconvenience. Here's one of the best characters. Oh wait, I need to turn that off. Yep, nope, you are not missing Susie. Susie's got a great theme too. Like how Susie's theme on the OST is titled Emoticon, which is perfect for her because, you know, she's an online nerd that wound up being a psychopath that Harmon Smith had to kill. And so she, in the afterlife, still retains her online nerddom by somehow articulating an emoticon when she speaks. That's actually a very interesting... That's actually interesting to me, again, in terms of the overlapping identity, because subtitles, of course, represent what somebody says, and emoticons are non-articulable sort of ideographs, so the fact that she can speak and Harmon hears the emoticon indicates that there is a deeper connection there besides speech, and I think that's very interesting, that the communication is both speech and text at the same time, and I think that's very cool. Oh, that's fantastic. How close did plain talk represent the pitch and timbre of Susie's speech? Oh, hey. Realize I'm slightly out of frame on my own stream. Gotcha. Oh, that's cool. I guess it makes sense to me that somebody would have figured out how they did that technically, but I never thought to follow up on that, investigate. Oh no 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 no! Whew. Here we go. There's a guy who I always envisioned as a more physically capable Quentin Tarantino. I say physically capable, but I mean the guy can unlock doors with a single hand and jump like several floors, so I don't really know what I'm expecting from Quentin Tarantino if I'm disappointed that he can't do that. Yeah, also the style in each character's sort of trademark moment. It's also I also like that there's some sort of sympathy between Coyote's like "you're fucked" and Khan's catch line when he hits a weak point on a Heaven Smile. And you know, they're supposed to like each other. I think Khan is supposed to be afraid of Dan, and Coyote and Dan don't like each other. And so the fact that Khan and Dan have a sort of like older younger brother dynamic, and that sort of comes out in their same utterances, is nice to me. A nice detail. Actually, that's the first time I've sworn on stream. Breaking my own rules here. Firing. I also love this firing, howling. That's such an evocative image, and that's good. This, the way that these puzzles work, you know, they're not that complex, and they're basically later Resident Evil sort of worthy puzzles. You know, as RE continues, the puzzles become less and less challenging, though, you know, admittedly they weren't, you know, brain busters at the start. But this game really takes that and gives you the abstract motions of a Resident Evil game, because RE games, of course, are very lock and key focused in their progression, and this just removes any kind of interest that the game has in whatever the key is supposed to represent, because in the RE games, you know, a huge part of those games is the gothic environment and atmosphere, and so when you've got things like the Joker key or the club key, or, you know, any of those things that are sort of archetypal or game related, it creates a sense of mystery and an atmosphere of discovery, and that works for those games, but actually isn't something that this game needs. So it actually unburdens itself of the of any attempt to represent something in the puzzles, and just leaves it as a pure puzzle. So odd engravings, slots, you know, all these things like that where it just leaves it that way. It's very interesting, a very interesting way of taking that same design and making something different from it. Well, Dan, if you have reason to dislike a coyote, then I hope you are able to reinforce your property borders ASAP, because They're after our cattle. It's kind of a nice difference in their visual design because they are sort of rivals. And this, if you look at the way Coyote positions himself as he runs, you know, here he is. He's got his arm crossed down across his front, and he's got his the barrel of his gun touching the outside of his left thigh. And then you compare that with Dan's design, and of course Dan has his sort of trademark resting at like a baseball bat over his shoulders, and it's basically the opposite hand position with the same hand. So that plus Dan's sort of dressed up look and Coyote's casual look, it sets them as opposites in a way that I feel is a setup to something that maybe wasn't able to be paid off on in terms of what could be done development-wise with the story. But nonetheless, even if... Hold on. There we go. Even if they were not able to follow up on that for specific content, the fact remains that, again, looking to form for cues rather than content, the form tells you about their relationship, and so you kind of don't necessarily need exposition to know that they are opposites in some very important ways. Just look at their posture, look at their dress, and later on I think you can listen to the way they address each other through the television set. But yeah, again, form tells you as much about the way they play and the way they operate. That's great. The solution to the puzzle is just described in those very literal terms that, on its own, is an innocuous phrase. It's really good. Visually, this is. Let me see, are there any guys around this corner? No, they're not. This is my favorite iteration of the sort of trademark Suda style. It is the perfect middle ground between representative detail and abstraction with harsh shadows and gradients. I know that, let's see. If you I actually think this game's visual style is closer to Flower, Sun, and Rain than it is to No More Heroes, even though the shadowing in this game is as harsh in many areas as it is in No More Heroes. But if you look at Flower, Sun, and Rain, it feels like a low-res Killer 7. Whereas Killer 7 does not feel like a lower stylized No More Heroes. And I like the plain, solid colors in this game's design more so than I like No More Heroes. But with that said, that's comparative. I like No More Heroes quite a lot in the way that it creates a very spare feeling to its world. With the harsh shadows. As a matter of fact, the harsh shadows in that game's visual design reinforced to me that it takes place in the Southwest, because you can just kind of feel how hot it is in Santa Destroy. And even though Santa Destroy is, I believe, supposed to be like very, very far Southern California, it manages to feel very Texan to me from when I lived down there, and it, you know, routinely gets into the triple digits in summer. See that right there, bookshelf arrangement complete. Please die. Oh no. Okay. Alright, this house is gonna go down. do some splash damage here. It's fantastic. I don't think I've ever actually used that ability of masks before. But that is exactly what it's made for. Can't believe that I actually avoided, I don't know if I avoided, but I passed on using a feature and just ate the damage. I really like the way this ceiling is designed. Here, you know, it's got it's broken up into the gridded squares, but then it has these almost like glass shattering cross hatchings. I like that very much. Yeah, this is beautiful framing. The only other time, I believe the only time that the sort of like lingering personae speak to somebody specific is when you're forced into using that character, like Garcian at the end of Angel, where Travis addresses Garcian specifically. And in that instance, it is because it can only be Garcian that he would speak to. But otherwise, because it's so variable, they're just talking to Harmon. Let's see. Where is that on the neck? Kind of think it's on the neck. Oh, weird. They just blow up if you hit them enough. Coyote's skill has always been difficult for me to sort of wrap my player ability around. I know she's supposed to be like a sharpshooter, but and this is also kind of a problem that I have with the aiming in general, is I feel like I am successful when I hit just a little bit off the just a little bit off the target, and dead-on hits are sort of uncertain as to what's landing at the right place. So she's supposed to be a sharpshooter, but if I land and hit that sort of like fuzzy gold spot, I don't always get the one-hit kill. So it's a little uncertain for me. Man, I think every freelancer feels Johnny Gagnon's pain there. Let's see. Yeah, we're doing good on time. This is a good area to kind of get a look at each character's quick turn. Excuse me. It's kind of a slow pivot, but it's interesting. She kind of ducks and turns with her shoulder. That's a very interesting sort of like top-heavy motion compared to the other characters that are sort of either hop or turn at the waist. Or Kevin, who is just insane. And whose color palette fits this area perfectly. Love how crunchy those sound effects are. Also, props to Kevin's acrobatic ability, because even if you're going upstairs and turning corners, he can, you know, they all follow the same path. So when he backflips, he manages to turn in air like almost 90 degrees and land it. Oh. Yeah, Coyote's got that almost flea-like agility. Khan's is nice too. Khan's also leans into, you know, what you would think for his character design. He's very tricky, and it's kind of it kind of has the trick shot feel that you know, a younger, more reckless assassin would value. So that's also a very crunchy sound effect, that almost paper-like scramble. Evening, Shantae. It's good to see you. Yeah, Khan's is good. Masks. I like masks. The we saw it from with the camera switching before, but yeah, he's got. I mean, he's got a wrestling style. He almost like he's jumping up on the ropes and turning around. But yeah, the sort of pause in place, and the fact that he jumps as he does it, you can kind of feel his extra weight, which is one of the things that I like about his. Also, very crunchy sound effects on the cape. The sound team on this game did a fantastic job. Nothing. Oh wait, I can drop off the thick blood. That's a good thing to do. I have to tell you, one of the other things about the PS2 version not being super well optimized is when those load screens come up and it's sort of stuck on that very close nose to the TV screen, low resolution television snow. It will absolutely make me sort of just kind of dissociate and fade out for a little bit. So the load times on the load times on the GameCube version are welcome from that vantage point.
Make me say, wait here.
Let's see.
I've changed me. I've changed.
She is going to be good for
They never notice.
these kinds of things. Yeah, so Waver and Speed, she is my smith for the boss encounters. Yeah, you know, whenever I replay this game, outside of like a definite Killer 8 run, where Khan's quick leveling is vital, I always kind of default to my old habits with the characters that I prioritized when I played it through the first time, and that was Dan, Coyote, and Mask. That's who I always sort of pump all my resources into. On later playthroughs, I've used.
Get the hell away! What is this thing?
Gruesome. I've used Kevin, Coyote, and Khan. What am I leaving out? As primaries. Coyote, Kevin, and Khan. What am I leaving out? Well, anyway, and so I appreciate what their gameplay style is. I just sort of had my favorites that I default to. Whoop. All right. Never make that shot. I love Dan's double tap. That makes his desperate, I am not making the weak spot because I either destroyed the limb it was attached to or am too close quarters to really care to try to aim, makes that a more viable strategy. I don't know who that character is that Kaede summons. I've never been clear if that's supposed to be like another aspect of her personality, or if because I know it has a name. I think it's the Sino evil of the Kikazaru, Iwazaru, and other Zaru group. But yeah. I can't say I feel like I earned that victory, but I will take it. Leveling up Khan's speed is absolutely vital for the end of what is it? It's Fukushima's level. When you have to basically outshoot Julia Kisugi. Oh, this is. I don't think this is a necessary detour, but it has my favorite Travis moment. You know, people love the bad girl shirt and the gestures and that sort of thing, but this is my favorite Travis moment. You just go into this random apartment and you find him doing this. Evening Arcs, good to see you. Whew. Here he is. It's Travis, making eggs. Can't you see I'm busy? Hey, Travis had company. He just came in and shot him. Now he's making 2 servings of eggs for 1. The Chief's very own inside guys. It says use your ability. I'm not sure if that's referring to a special ability. I've never figured that out. If that is referring to like a special ability, or if that's just use your ability to see the weak spot and shoot it, because that is, in addition to being able to actually see the Heaven Smiles for what they are, the ability to see the weak point is, I think, what makes the Smith Syndicate uniquely suited to fighting these guys. So. Oh, man. I love the little cracks of light coming through the siding. That's beautiful and strange. Oh, God. Brashness is very Travis. I like this. Game is also not that interested in being too obscure with how to progress. Just lets you know exactly who to use when. Yes, exactly, Iceman Dan. See, is this a save room? It is a save room. Which might be close to where we need to call it for the night. Because I'm running up against a hard stop here. Let's see how far we can get in 10 minutes. Also, a lovely lock visual there. Another great instance where there is implied a texture and depth to visual reality that we just don't get to see. Ah! An effect that is only slightly dampened by the fact that you can just pause it and wait for the visuals to restore. I love how goofy these guys' postures are. Again, one of the great things about this game's execution is it blends this, I mean, just really very dark, dark, weird world with a level of silliness that works. Yeah, here's our dude. Vinculum Gate. This game introduced me to the word vinculum, and did not realize that I had been using vincula for years. Vinculum is has two, again, another thing where there are two identities folded into one thing. A vinculum can either divide or combine. A vinculum is the mark that divides two numbers in a fraction, so like 2 over 5. The slash, that's the vinculum. There's also another usage where the vinculum can be drawn over over two different terms, and those are considered part of the same set. It's grouping. And so, again, with it's something that binds and divides at the same time, so it's absolutely a perfect image for what this game does. There's a great high-energy song for this. And then it's followed by this absolute drop in momentum into the Coliseum. I've thought I've had a lot of different reactions to the Coliseum and what it is, and what it means to sort of run through here, because, you know, you always start over there. You always start in the, what is this? You start in the east, and then you make it to one of these other doors. And it seems like you're unraveling something. You're just gradually stripping away these figures behind these doors. And my current feeling on it is almost kind of like the unraveling of a mandala. It's like the unraveling of a seal. And the more that is undone, the more you're able to get to the center. And the center, of course, is where you get to the final smile. That's enough of that. Do you mean of Rayvon? Rayvon has the misfortune of being so catchy it gets a little overplayed. Oh, this guy. This first Heaven Smile is always tougher for me than any of the other mini-bosses. Let's see how we do. There we go. God help me, I always wish that Coyote says Hertz donut, and then there's like a Hertz donut joke attached to it, but that doesn't work at all. But yeah, so anyway, this is the binding function, right? The vinculum gate. These two terms are the same. You exit through one door, you return through another, and the knot is complete. Oh, you know, I don't think I ever knew that you could just thin blood kill him. I always thought that you had to hit his weak point. Alright, so this brings us right before Kunlan, which our introduction to him, which I think will be a fine point to pick the stream up on Saturday, because I gotta skedaddle. So thank you everybody for coming out. I'm looking forward to playing more of this with you, and yeah, it's a good game, my favorite. And thank you everybody for coming out. It's great to see you, and I hope to see you on Saturday. 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is the nominal time we start, but it's always kind of fuzzy within, you know, plus minus an hour or so. So, thank you, Dreambomb. Thank you, Knuckles. It's great to see you out again for the first time in a while. And Ark, Shantae, Swimmy, Phoenicia, Iceman Dan, thank you all. What? Oh. There we go. Oh, weird. My game looks like it's based on the time that it's saving at. Weird. What time zone is it stuck in? Is that Eastern? Well, anyway, have a good night.